Hey everyone, this is Paul. Welcome to Intro to DJing, and in this video I'm going to be talking about power cables, the types of cables you should know as a DJ that could power your gear. So this includes your speakers, lighting, and other sorts of things. Now, I'm only going to be talking about single phase power in this video. I'm not going to be talking about your multi-phase power like feeder cable or something like L2130. And the main reason for this is, even though I'm an electrical engineer and I could talk about this, you probably shouldn't be getting your information on this stuff from YouTube. You should probably get a book. Look at the book, Electricity for the Entertainment Technician. Great book, talks about connecting to generators, things like that. I'm just going to be simply talking about just grabbing wall power for most things. Now, the first cable we're going to talk about is what's called an Edison cable. Often I'll just call this extension cord. When I'm working with my crew, I'll say, hey, get me a 25-foot extension cord. This is what we mean. We mean a NEMA 515P to 515R. The P is the plug, the R is the, receptacle. And this is for carrying 15 amps at up to 125 volts. There's also a 20 amp version. So the 15 amp version has the two up and down connectors and the ground in the middle. The 20 amp version has one up and down and one to the side, but not every connector allows it. So I don't even carry 20 amp cables. The other thing to remember is just because you're using 20 amp cables, the breaker may only be rated to use 80% of its load before flipping over an extended period of time. So even with a 20 amp breaker and cables that can support it, you could still trip your breaker if you're drawing, say, 18 amps. So just be aware of that as well. This is a very standard type of cable. I'd say just get good quality stuff, heavy gauge. So if you are running, 12 amps or 14 amps in some event, you don't want your cable jacket to be melting or anything like that or getting too hot. The next type of cable I want to talk about is an IEC cable. Often this is called a printer cable. You see the male end there on the left and the female end on the right. The connectors there, C14 is the male one. It's not too common. You see it in some old lights. And then C13 is the female end, and that one is a lot more common. Although what you'll often see is something like this, an IEC cable, or what we call a power cable, which has an Edison male end for plugging into the wall or some sort of extension cord, and then this IEC C13 on the other end. So often we call these IEC cables, hey, pass me an IEC cables. Some premium brands will have actual locking versions of these. So this is a power cable from QSC, and JBL makes theirs as well. That comes with their SRX series. And basically you can see it has this locking mechanism. So it'll go in the speaker, and then to pull it out, you just basically pull the tab to lock it out, which means if somebody was to yank it or trip over it, it wouldn't just immediately become disconnected, which can be nice or not nice. So this would be, of course, Edison or NEMA 515P to C13, but we just often call this an IEC cable. The one that you see here on the left, I don't often use, but I just wanted to show you the connector just for reference. Then we have our Powercon cable. This is a Powercon link cable. Now, Powercon is another version of delivering power, but it has some additional possible benefits, I guess, over IEC. The first is that these are generally capable of delivering up to 20 amps. And there are two connectors, the Powercon B, this is the gray version, and then A is the blue one. It's a little confusing because you generally think, B would be blue, but just don't get confused. Usually people will just say a Powercon cable, or these are Powercon jumpers. That's what I call them because it goes from power out into power in. Now, the way these work is there are tabs, and you line up the tabs here, and it clicks, and you lock it into place. So you turn it, and then when you want to be done, you have to pull the tab and twist it and then pull it out. So it locks into place. All of these cables are locking, and that is what you see. You also have something like your Powercon to Edison. This is much more common, where you once again have your NEMA 515P on one end and the Powercon connector on the other. This is great for delivering power to speakers and lighting. Now I want to move over to Powercon True1. Often we call this TrueCon. These are completely backwards compatible with the True1 TOP, but nowadays, honestly, we just always call them TrueCon. That's just what it is, even though the technical name is just Powercon True1. These are what they are now replacing these old Powercon cables like this with, although at the time of this video, it is very rare to see these cables out in the wild. I don't even own any because none of my gear uses it, but some of the gear I will be purchasing will be having it. Some of the additional benefits here are, one, the male and female ends can be daisy chained. So if you look here at this Powercon jumper, you can't plug the white end into the blue end. You can't plug the A into the B, but when it comes to TrueCon, you can, which means you can also daisy chain the cables together, which is really, really convenient without needing any adapters. The other thing is these are rated for disconnection under load, which is really nice as well, which means with Powercon, we do this all the time. We turn the power on, plug it in, and link it. But theoretically, you're supposed to plug it in and then turn the mains power on, or flip your breaker, or turn on your extension cord. To be frank, most of us DJs, we never do this. But TrueCon Powercon True1 is rated to do this, so that's really good. And lastly, most of the time, in fact, I think all the time, True1 is IP rated. So once the connector is locked, it should be waterproof to at least a significant degree, which is really nice. Doesn't mean you should be plugging it in when it's wet or raining. You definitely shouldn't be doing that. But for instance, if you plug it in when it's not raining and then it starts raining, you should be generally fine. One of the things I want to say is TrueCon is pretty much 20 amps in the US. Everywhere else, it is 16 amps, but it's 16 amps at 240 volts rather than 20 amps at 120 or 125. So actually, even though it's, it seems large in the US, because it's at 240 volts, it's actually better everywhere else in the world. You can actually deliver a lot more power there, but it is what it is about living here in the US. And the male and female end, the male end is the one there on the left with the pins, and the female end, of course, is the one there without the pins. Obviously, any cable, you're going to have male and female ends. The male end is, of course, the one that has the little pokey things coming out, and the female is the one that accepts that. Of course, you can think about why they're called that. Hopefully, I don't have to explain it. Powercon, we don't usually say male and female because they pretty much look exactly the same. It just has to do with where the pins are, which is why people probably moved to Powercon True1. So hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.